Exciting day today. I am making a quilt coat. Hello, I'm Megan. Welcome to my sewing space, and in today's video I am so excited. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I am a 14 with excitement, but also like a 14 with nervousness, because today I'm going to take this antique quilt and I'm gonna turn it into a coat. This quilt was in my great-grandmother's house for years and years and years, and she did not make it. One of her friends gave it to her, but it just sat in her closet for decades. And then it sat in my parents' house for 10 years, and it has been in my closet for 6 months. I don't know how old it is. I do know that it is too cool to just sit in the closet collecting dust, and it collected a lot of dust. It was dirty, 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 dirty. But I cleaned her up, and I don't want to put her back in the closet to collect more dust, so we're turning it into a coat and probably a couple other things. The pattern that I am using is the Coast Coat pattern by La'Rae Handmade. I hope that I am saying that right. She just released this pattern within the last week. By the time I get this video done, it'll probably be more than a week. But she just released this pattern. I'm super excited. I'll link it down below for you guys if you're interested in purchasing the same pattern. But I taped it all together, I cut it out in my size, and yeah, time to chop right into this. I'm nervous and excited. I don't want to make any mistakes. Let's hope it goes well. Here we go. This is it. No going back. Fingers crossed. Just gotta bite the bullet. Here we go. Here is the back bodice cut out. I was so scared to do this. I think I did pretty good. Let's just keep going. We're just going for it, and we're gonna trust the process. And I got my 2 front panels done. These look pretty good. Okay, that was kind of stressful. I'm sweating a little bit. At one point while I was cutting out those pieces, my hands were shaking. 1, because I had to push really hard with my rotary cutter to cut the pieces out, but 2, because I was, like I said, I'm nervous about this. I ran into a couple problems while I was cutting out the pieces. This is an old hand quilted blanket. Piece blocks are not square. The blanket is not squared. They look like squares, but they're not all the same shape, and they're not all the same size. They're pretty close. It is not perfectly square. So my pieces are not all super symmetrical. Let me show you what I mean. The front bodice pieces, I did pretty good trying to cut them out in a way that they are symmetrical. The green lines are gonna run pretty evenly once everything gets stitched together. The butterflies are lined up pretty good. I am very happy with how I made out with this. Now, the back bodice was a little bit of a struggle. I wound up making it just a little bit longer just to keep the green trim all the same length. I tried to get the center, like the cross in the center, pretty even. I did okay there, but like up here you'll see there's more overhang here of the cream color than over here. Overall, it's okay. I'm fine with this. It's gonna look good when it's all put together. Now, with the sleeve pieces, I wanted to use the trim as like the cuff area because it's already finished, and that's one step that I'm not gonna have to do. I also like how it's thick in a contrasting color. These are a little bit crooked. I was trying to make this part square and even. The lines kind of go this way a little bit. Cut it too close there compared to over here. And up here, you know, there's lots of the cream color. While over here, I had to trim that off. There is none. The edge parts here, they're gonna be under my arm. Nobody's gonna notice that they're not cut evenly. But up high, I am a little bit nervous that it's gonna look a little wonky if people decide to be hypercritical. I'm trying not to be hypercritical of myself. All things considered, super happy with how these pieces just got cut out. Now I have to cut out 2 pocket pieces, and I'm gonna try and pattern match for the first time. Never done this before. I have an idea. I hope that it's gonna work. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So this pattern came with a rounded pocket piece and a square pocket piece. Truth be told, I kind of like the rounded better, but I think the square is gonna be easier to pattern match. And what I need to do, so here is my front pieces. I want my pockets to go right there, but what I need to do is cut out my pocket pieces so it's exactly the same butterfly, the same green butterfly, cut out exactly like this, so when I put that green butterfly pocket piece on top, they match. And then I have to do the same thing for this red one. Let me show you how I think I'm gonna do this. Zip top bag, dry erase markers, craft scissors. I'm literally just winging this idea. Let's see if it works. I'm cutting open this plastic bag and taping the pocket piece to the plastic, cutting it out, and then I have a clear plastic pocket that I'm able to use dry erase marker on to trace my butterfly. So I can take this pocket piece and match it up with the butterfly the best I can and cut that out. Here's what that looks like. Same thing just happened again, where it's an old quilt. Everything is not perfectly the same. So this butterfly, even though it's the same color and they're all relatively the same shape, it's not perfectly the same shape as the other one. So I'm gonna lay it down and it is what it is. Let's see. You know what? It's not that bad. When I'm sewing it, I can probably force the pockets to line up better while I'm sewing it. I just did that one. Let me do this one. It's a lot of work trying to cut these out. My hair's falling down and I'm getting sweaty, but I cut it out. Let's see how it matches. Fingers crossed, it is what it is. All right, it looks good enough. And here are all of my pattern pieces cut out and together. I'm not nervous anymore. It's cut out. Let's crush it. Let's get this sewn together. I'm super stoked. I'm pinning the front bodices right sides together and sewing in place. And then I'm pressing the seam open and using a piece of bias tape, I am pinning that to the center neck seam and then sewing along either edge to create a nice clean finish. This fabric's really thick. Instead of using pins, I'm using binder clips because I don't have any sewing clips. And the binding clips work just as well, so that's what I'm using. Then I pin the back bodice to the front bodice pieces, right sides together, sew in place, press the seam open, and then finish with bias tape again. I am sewing my side seams together, pressing the seam open, and then again finishing with the bias binding. this is where they recommend you try it on. So here I go. Okay. Victory, V-I-C-T-O-R-Y. All right, all right. Next, I'm working on binding the pockets. I'm gonna maybe sew the pockets onto the bodice piece and then just call it quits for the day and pick this up another time because I need a break. It's a new day. I am super excited because I finished the pockets yesterday. I did not film it, but look how well I pattern matched these pockets. I am super happy with how these turned out, especially because they're not perfect matches. Couple things to do now are the sleeves and binding the raw edges. Let's get cracking. Okay, each sleeve gets sewn right sides together. And then that underarm seam gets bound with the bias binding. Then I'm working on attaching the sleeves to the bodice, sewing in place, and then finishing with bias binding. Oops. The sleeves are too long. That's okay. I'm so excited and happy with how this is going. Oh my God. For now, I think I'm just gonna leave them cuffed like this, like this. I will decide later if I'm gonna actually hem them higher. I kind of like the cuffed look for now. So happy with how this is going. Last thing to do is bind the raw edges here. That's going to take me a little bit. Let me keep going here. I'm adjusting the angle at which the front bodice and the back bodice meet so that the angle isn't at 90 degrees, it's more at 120 degrees. So it's easier for me to use my bias binding at this seam. Attach the bias binding to the wrong side, then iron it towards the front and clip in place. Then slowly and carefully stitch the binding to the right side of the jacket. And here we go, the finished quilt jacket of my dreams. What do you guys think? I am so happy with how this jacket turned out. I couldn't have even possibly imagined that it would turn out this good. Do I love it? Absolutely. Am I gonna wear it every day? Probably not. It's quite delicate. It's who knows how many decades old. I want to be buried in this jacket. I love it so much. I'm only half joking. I think if I wore it every day, it would just shorten its life. I tried to cut my pattern pieces in a way that I was using the best piece blocks, you know, the ones with the least amount of wear and tear. There are some distressed areas of this jacket, which I think adds to the charm, but it certainly isn't gonna do anything to prolong the jacket's life. So, you know, won't be wearing it every day, but I will definitely be getting lots of good quality use out of it. Thank you to Danielle at La'Rae Handmade for releasing this pattern. If you are interested in purchasing this pattern so you can make your own quilt coat, I will leave a link in the description box so you can find the coast coat pattern. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye!